everyone, I'm Katie and today I am doing a mid-month reading wrap-up. Normally, I wait until the end of the month to do these, but I have finished, I believe, 16 books so far. And it's not even the 15th yet. It's the 14th today, so I guess we're doing a mid-month wrap-up. So most of the books I don't have physically because I did end up getting a lot of audiobooks through my Hoopla and Libby apps. So before we get started, you saw me making coffee. Yes, this is a promotion, sort of. Kind of, yeah. But I made myself a lovely, caramel, a caramel cappuccino, as I really don't drink hot coffee. But thank you to Javi, because I get to share this coffee with you, and a couple of my friends and my parents have both said they like it pretty good. So I do have a coupon code if you want to use it. I will put it on the screen and link the website down below. It already has the coupon code in there if you'd like to give it a try. Okay, I just realized I like this better with crushed ice than with regular ice. That's good. Alright, regular ice was fine, but definitely crushed ice is the way to go. And I also really needed a drink today. Okay, so I have my list of books. I'm not going to go by star rating this time because I do have a few series books to talk about, so we'll go through those as well. So, I had a few really great books, and I had a few really big disappointments. So most of the books are middle grade. I'm going to do those first and then do the adult fiction, nonfiction after. So yeah, I'm not going to go by star rating, so let's just go ahead and get started. So the first two books that I'm not going by when I read them, but yes, these were one of the first two that I read this month. So I finished the Aggie Morton series. So I thought there was going to be more than 4 books. I'm honestly kind of glad there isn't, I'm sorry to say, because I know some of my friends absolutely love this series, but I read The Dead Man in the Garden, which is the 3rd book, and then the 4th book is The Seaside Corpse. So the 3rd book I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed the premise. I would say you could read them out of order because they're all different mysteries. So I read this one, actually really enjoyed it. And it didn't end like the way I thought it was going to be, so that was kind of interesting. I can't really tell you too much going into that because it is the 3rd and the 4th book in the series, but it is about Aggie Morton, who is like kind of Agatha Christie if she was a 12-year-old, and her friend Hector Poirot, who's supposed to be Hercule Poirot in the Agatha Christie book. So it's about their adventures as they become friends and solve mysteries together. So the 4th book I really did enjoy. The third book I enjoyed. The 4th book I only gave 2 stars. And I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, I really didn't like the mystery. I honestly thought it was pretty boring. And I really didn't connect with the characters that much. Honestly, it felt like almost an entirely different story at some points. So yeah, there's that. Plus also I realized, especially in the 3rd and 4th books, for middle grade, there was strong language in it. And I'm not talking about like the strong language. Yeah, I mean there was some strong language in it, especially for a middle grade book. And I was like, if it wasn't the middle grade, I probably would have DNF'd it, because to me, a middle grade book should not have language in it at all. Whether it's like mediocre language or strong language, it really shouldn't have it. And I noticed that in the 3rd and the 4th book. So honestly, if there were more to come out, which I don't think they are because it sounded like it was a wrap-up book, I probably won't be continuing this series, which I'm sad about because I thought I was going to really end up enjoying this series, and it was just a pretty big disappointment in the last 2 books based on that. I don't think there's anything else really too much in there, But yeah, just on that, I'm just like, really? Like in a middle grade especially? Like, no. So I would not recommend it for middle schoolers. If you want to read it as an adult, go ahead, but I seriously would probably not even give it to my future kids. So yeah. All right, on to the next two, which ended up both being 3 stars. I finished the New Kids series by Jerry Craft. These are middle school age graphic novels that talk a lot about like diversion and bullying in school and stuff. And the first book in this series, which I read a couple months ago, I really did enjoy. I think I gave it 4 stars. And these two were just kind of okay. I felt like, I kind of agree with one of my friends who posted a review, and I saw her review. I was like, yeah, it did feel like that. It felt kind of disconnected. It didn't feel like a story. It felt more like yeah, he had like, the author like wanted to add in all of these diverse subjects and characters without really having a storyline. And so they're just okay to me, honestly. Maybe even less than 3 stars, maybe 2 stars, but I already gave it 3 stars, so I'm not like, you know, it's okay. But it really wasn't that great. I honestly would have been okay if it was just the first book and without a series. So yeah, so I read those. They were just okay. All right, the next one. Oh, the next one was I don't know. It was just, I have a really mixed feelings. I don't know. It wasn't even that great of a book. So honestly, I probably should have DNF'd it because I didn't really like it that much. And it was a big disappointment because this was one of my most anticipated books that I've had on my shelves for a couple years now. And that is The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell. And I don't know. It was fast paced, but honestly felt more like too fast-paced almost, if you know what I mean. Like the story just felt like it was like the train, like it just rushed at you and kept on going, and there was like really no pause. What felt like no pause to kind of breathe. And also in this one, to me, had too much magic. Like I don't mind magic, I don't mind like fantasy type books, but this one definitely had more of like a sorcerer character and magic wands, and I don't like that, so I will not be continuing this series. So yeah, but if it didn't even have that, I still didn't like the story. So there's a snowplow going down the street when there's literally no snow in the street. Okay, anyways. So this book is about a girl. She finds a train in the middle of her living room, and her parents are asleep. She has no idea why they aren't waking up, and then a train just all of a sudden appears in her living room. Well, the tracks. The train comes later. But she's like, what's going on? Who are you? And she ends up finding these trolls that take these mysterious letters and packages to impossible places. And she ends up stowing away on the train and somehow becoming the postal service, like, volunteer. So she's doing all this, and she has, like, a lot of adventures along the way, but it just, I don't know, just felt too fast-paced for me, and I didn't really like the magic system in it, so yeah, without that, I still probably would not have liked this book that much because I didn't think it was that great, so I'm probably going to unhaul them off my bookshelves. Thankfully, I didn't pay that much for them, but yeah, so might go on to my Pango books. If you didn't know, I have one, and I usually have it linked down below. The next one, I have so many disappointments in middle grade books. This is the last one for disappointments in middle grade. The rest are all uphill. So the last one that I had was The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. I buddy read this one with Gloria. I will link her channel down below, but we buddy read this one, and I think we both kind of gave it almost the same star rating. We both kind of felt just like it was just okay, but like to me, I don't even think it says, excuse me. Yeah, it doesn't say, but like I know for a fact that like my dad also said that these were like a compilation of stories. When you put them into one book, you should say like a collection of stories or something like that, because if you don't, it does feel very disconnected. So this book is about mole, rat, toad, badger. So it's all different animal characters, and they're all named that. Like they don't have names. They're just named what they are. And some of the stories were pretty good. I actually do like Toad in the beginning with his adventures, but as he went on, like there's there's no wrap up at the end. Like, you can't really tell if Toad like learned his lesson or not. It was kind of weird because like you think like, especially when Toad was such a bad character and made all these mistakes, you think there would be like a great wrap up, but like he apologized like in the last like page and a half, but throughout the book it felt like he was apologizing, but in his head he was saying, oh, I'm still going to do these things. So you can't really tell if he was actually sorry or not. So it wasn't that great of a book, I felt. So yeah, so that was definitely kind of a disappointment. So I only ended up giving it 2 stars, I think. I don't think I gave it lower than that, but yeah, so I only ended up giving it 2 stars. I didn't used to like the cartoons growing up, so this felt more like a nostalgic book where like I could see those characters again growing up, but I honestly probably preferred the movie version more. All right, the next book that I read was The Sign of the Twisted Candles by Carolyn Keene, and I gave this one 3.5 stars, and it was pretty good. I did enjoy it. This is about Nancy, Bess, and George, and they end up going to like this inn where supposedly Bess and George's family knows the man who owns the inn there. And so they go and they find out that he's been kind of locked up in the attic, and they're wondering why he never allows visitors to visit him. And so they're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a mystery behind like the caretakers of the inn and why they're like kind of treating this old man very harshly. And so there's like this like supposedly like inheritance or something going on. I won't say any more because I don't want to spoil it if you've never read that book by by Carolyn Keene. But I did enjoy it. I gave it 3.5. It might be closer to 4 because I did really enjoy that one. So that was just a nice, quick, easy, and fun to read. Next one that I read was the buddy read for middle grade March, and that one was A Rover Story by Jasmine Warga, and I gave this one 4 stars. I remember last year I was honestly really disappointed in the buddy read. I did not like it, but this year was definitely a higher rating for sure. I really enjoyed this one. This is about I can't remember the rover's name, Rez, because they had a contest in the book and kids at a school could pick names for the rover, and somebody mentioned resilience, so his name is Rez for short. And so it's basically like kind of like a WALL-E story. So if you like the movie WALL-E, definitely check this book out. There's definitely trigger warnings though for serious illness for a loved one, but not a spoiler alert, but like she's okay. So okay, but she ends up okay. So I just want to let you guys know going in. But yeah, so that might have been a spoiler alert, but I just wanted to let you guys know that. So, but I did really enjoy this one, and honestly, I wish that the whole book was on just the character of Rez rather than Rez and a girl that her mom is the one who kind of worked and built Rez. But I really wish it was just Rez's point of view. I really liked his point of view more. That's why it got 4 instead of 5 stars, because I didn't really like the daughter's point of view. It was okay, but definitely Rez was like the star of the book. I liked it because like he had human emotions, but there was no way for him to communicate to the people who created him that like, hey, I have human emotions and I know what you're all feeling. Like, I'm starting to feel these things too. And so it was just a really great fun book, and I liked that like it didn't just like take like a month to get to the moon and back. It was like years, and like just seeing his time in space, and it was a fun experience. I definitely am happy that this was a buddy read because I really did enjoy it. It was definitely a fun time. Definitely, yeah, if you like WALL-E, I think you'll really enjoy this book. Alright, so the next 3 books that I read are in a series, and I wish I finished the 4th book for this review because I'll have to talk about the 4th book at the end of the month. But I finished the first 3 books in the Wing Feather Saga by Andrew Peterson, and I really enjoyed them. So let's see, the titles were On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness, North or Be Eaten, and The Monster in the Hollow. So this is a Christian middle grade series, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it the first book 5 stars, and I gave the second 2 books 4 stars. So I am really enjoying the series. I think the only reason that I gave the second and the third book only 4 stars was that about like the first third to half the book was kind of a slow build, and then the last half of the book was where the action is, and that's where it would have been 5 stars for me. So I just kind of like knocked off a star just because it was a little more slower in the beginning. But I do really enjoy the series. I cannot wait to finish the last book and see what I rate that one. I think it's the longest book in the series, so but it should only take me a day or two to finish. But I did really enjoy that book, or that whole series, quite a bit. So it's about the Igby family. I can't believe I remembered that name, but it's the Igby children. It's 2 brothers and a sister, and they end up finding out that they are heirs to some like supposedly made up kingdom, and they didn't realize that it was real. And then they find out that somebody is hunting them down, and so they have to go on the run. And so it's all their adventures about that, and there's all these different kind of fantasy creatures throughout the book. There is no like I would say like it is a fantasy book, but there's like no like magic like that other book that I mentioned, you know, nothing that like triggered my discerning spirit. So I did really enjoy it. Definitely if you like fantasy, I think you will enjoy this series. There is definitely a lot of action in the book, so like there's nothing like super detailed or anything, but a lot of action going on. I do love an action-filled book, so I definitely enjoy them. Check them out if you haven't already, because most of my friends who have read it have really loved it, so definitely check it out. Alright, so I have 2 more middle grade. Next one, I read the 3rd book in the Beast and the Bethany series. I left that one downstairs, but this is called Battle of the Beast, and I think, honestly, I don't know, it might be my favorite so far. I gave it 4 stars, but I think it might be my favorite. So this, I can't tell you anything because it's the 3rd book, but I mean, since it has Beast in the title, we can kind of figure out that the Beast is going to come back in the 3rd book. So I did really enjoy it. I thought it was really good. And I know I can't tell you anything about it, but I can tell you about the 1st book, obviously, but it's about this beast that lives up in this guy's, his name is Ebenezer, and this beast lives in his attic, and he brings him stuff to eat. It can be anything, but it has to be living, so like birds, animals, but then the beast spits out stuff that Ebenezer wants, like long life or fancy clothes or a pretty house, you know. So the beast finally decides that he wants to try something different, and he wants to try what a human child would taste like. So Ebenezer goes to an orphanage and he finds Bethany, and Bethany is the most obnoxious, grumpy child you will ever meet, and I love her. I think she's one of my favorite characters of all time, possibly, just because like throughout the book she just tries so hard to be a better person. So it's really cute. I definitely enjoyed the series, and there's going to be a 4th one coming out. I don't know when it's coming out. I saw the title and I'm like, yes. So the 3rd one, it leaves you at a cliffhanger, let's just say that. The other 2 really don't, but definitely this one leaves you on a cliffhanger. So hurry up and write, because I really want to read it. Alright, the last middle grade book, which I actually just finished, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. Well, early this morning, if you want to count it that way. But I finished buddy reading Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling. I buddy read this with Sam over at the Book Bunch. I'll link her channel down below as well, so check her out. But we buddy read this together, and we both finished it literally within like hours. Like it wasn't that long anyway. The audiobook was like I think 5 hours long, so really short, and I gave this one 5 stars. It will be one of my favorites of the year because I absolutely love this book. I feel like this book should be taught in schools if it's not already, because it was amazing, and it definitely has like that disability rep, which a lot of the times it can either go really bad or really good. This one was a really good one. So this is about a girl who was born with no arms, and she has quite a few friends at her old school that she's been living there all her life, basically, but her family really needs, or her father really needs a job, and so he ends up applying for a job in Arizona, and he gets it. So they move to Arizona, and so she's the new one at school, and it kind of just goes through what someone in that situation would deal with, like different situations. Like some people ignore her, some people stare at her, some people treat her differently. And so I really like that perspective, how like she kind of goes through like all the emotions and how different people treat her, versus like, I know a lot of the times like they just kind of focus on like bullying or like just treating somebody differently, versus like just seeing all the different ways that somebody with a disability can be put through. And so it was really a heart-moving book, but I also liked that she started making new friends at her new school, and she meets this boy who has Tourette's syndrome, and you see his point of view as well and how he's been treated at school and treated around the town. And so I really enjoyed it. I think I did almost cry at like 1 or 2 parts, because it was sweet and heartbreaking at the same time, and I just loved their friendship, and with the other boy as well at school, and just their community of friendship. And there's also like this mystery going around where her dad works as well. He works at like this old Western town carnival. So that was also really interesting to kind of like try to figure out what's going on at this carnival and see where the mystery takes us. So I really enjoyed that book. Definitely check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And there's a second book too, so I'm hoping to get to that one this month, but we'll see. All right, and then I can talk about the last couple of books from my adult books. Let's put that up there for now. All right, so the first one, which I thought I had a copy up here, I must have just left them downstairs, but I did have one DNF this month so far. Not bad, but it was such a disappointment because I really wanted to really like it because the cover is gorgeous, and I had it for a review, and I think this is like one of the only books that I've ever DNF'd for a review. I tried really hard. So this was All the Lost Places by Amanda Dykes, and this is my second book by the author, and I unfortunately couldn't get through it. There was nothing wrong with the book. It's just, it was one of the most slowest paced books I think I've ever read, and I just couldn't do it. I honestly made it, I think, almost halfway through the book, and I just couldn't do it. It was just so slow, and yeah, so unfortunately that's why I DNF'd it. And there really wasn't much going on. Like, there was supposed to be like this kind of mystery, but like honestly not really a mystery, like, to me, because it mentioned a mystery in the back cover, but a mystery to me means like you kind of solve as you go. This was more of like a tell it as you go. I don't know if that made sense, but it's dual timeline, and we're talking about this child who was found abandoned on the river in Versailles, in Venice. Couldn't think of that word, but he ends up being taken in by this family to learn their trade. And then it's the other timeline, which is modern timeline, where this man who supposedly knows about these like secret books, and he's seen them before, and this historian wants these books, so he ends up sending this man to Venice to try to find this lost book. And so we're kind of seeing him like translate like one of the books, but it's like, it's more like just learning about the story versus like this grand mystery. So I don't know. I heard from a friend's review that it gets slower in the second half, so I might try it in the future. I'll see. It just wasn't the right time for me. Yeah, it just wasn't the right time for me for that one. All right, so the next one that I read was, I did read a devotional, which I did a review for 2 out of the 3 books that I have left, so I'll link those down below and I won't talk about them too much. But I read 40 Days of Love by Paul David Tripp, and nice and short. I really enjoyed this one. This one has like just different ways that God loves us, and how we find out like where we put our love, and where we should put our love. So I really enjoyed it, and it definitely has further study, so you can look up in the Bible for extra study as well, which I will be doing that next time I read it. But I did enjoy this one, so I'll link my review down as well for this one. All right, and then the next one that I read was Of Fire and Lions by Misu Andrews, and this is the sequel to Isaiah's Daughter. But I don't know, I just felt like you could read these as standalones. They don't go in like sequence too much, because the first book was about Isaiah and his adopted daughter, and this one is about Daniel and his wife. So we don't really follow the first story. So I feel like you can read these separately. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I like this one because we follow almost the entire storyline of Daniel in this one book. Like, we follow him as a young boy, as he and his friends, you know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and how they were brought into the palace. And so we're following them, and we're following a girl named Balili, who is kind of their friend, but also kind of like their servant. So we follow her friendship with them as they grow older, and as Daniel starts to have feelings for her as well. And I don't feel like there's anything super triggering in this book. From what I'm remembering, I wish I wrote it down, because I think there is some, but Mr. Andrews' books are always pretty hard-hitting as far as biblical fiction goes. So yeah, but I really did enjoy this one. I thought it was really good. But yeah, it follows basically the entire timeline of Daniel, and we're following him as he gets older, and about him in the lion's den, and we're even following like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and when they were thrown into the fiery furnace. So a lot of things happening in this book. I think it might be my favorite in this series so far. There's still one more book that I have to finish. I had to return it though because it was due. So hopefully I'll get it back soon. But yeah, although I have a physical copy of it. I prefer the audiobooks right now because I can get more done during that time. But yeah, so I did enjoy this one. This one was definitely probably one of my favorite Mr. Andrews books so far. I do have a few favorites, but I did enjoy this one. But Balili kind of has a really hard life. She ends up being sent to be a kind of like a priestess and in a like idol worshipping temple. So we see that as well. And you know, I mean, if it wasn't Christian fiction, I mean, obviously I would DNF it, but it's obviously Christian fiction, and we see her transformation through her life as well. And there might be trigger warnings of like harm to a girl, but she does not get explicit. She does not get explicit at all. And if it does happen, it's only mentioned. So I do appreciate Mr. Andrews like not going into depth with those situations, but I did really enjoy this one. I definitely like seeing the faith content. I feel like the faith content in Misu's books are definitely one of the strongest in Christian fiction, so I definitely really enjoy that one. So the last book, which I think I would say this one or Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus, was my favorite of the month. So yeah, one of these. Alright, so this is the last book that I have so far for the month, but I read A Second Time Around by Melody Carlson. I did a whole book review on this one as well. I just realized my shirt matches the building. But anyway, so I read this one and I absolutely adored this one. It's a small town contemporary romance, not really heavy on the romance, so I was really happy about that, but it is about this older woman who's an empty nester, and she ends up inheriting her grandmother's souvenir shop, and she ends up deciding to keep it and renovating it for her interior decorating business, and ends up wanting to move to this small Oregon town. And I just really enjoyed it. I liked kind of the there's like some hostilities going on in the town, but there's also friendship going on and meeting new friends and new people. And I love stories like this that kind of deal with like a small business and just seeing the hardships of creating a business and all the hardships and also the good stuff that happens behind the scenes as well. So I really enjoyed this one. The only thing that I wish, I did give it 5 stars, but the only thing I wish was we got a little bit more of the romance at the end. I felt like it was an abrupt ending to the romance, and I just really wanted just like, 3 more pages. That's it. Just, just a couple pages to finish wrapping it up. So I did really enjoy it though, and it definitely will be a favorite of the year for me. This might be my favorite Melody Carlson book. So yeah, if you like Melody Carlson, I think you'll definitely enjoy this new one of hers. Alright, so I don't really have too many physical books for you all, I'm sorry, but most came from the library this month, which has been rare lately. Normally I have a lot of physical books, but not this month. So yeah, so I have these plus like another 13. But yeah, I read a lot so far this month. I do plan on reading probably another 15 or so by the end of the month, so that's why I did a wrap up now instead of waiting until the end of the month, because yeah, the end of the month wrap up would have been way over an hour. So happy that I read these and the other ones as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you've read this month so far that you've enjoyed, or maybe a book you really didn't like. I'd like to know that too. All right, so also let me know if you've read any of these too, and if you enjoyed them or didn't like them. I mean, we can have different opinions, and I'm okay with that. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.